Welcome back, friends. Hear Me Out podcast. Your boy Dro, joined as always by my good brother, the Towson graduate BT. What's going on, man?
What's up, man? I am living life, enjoying this rain.
Hot Media HMO.
Time. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir, man. Yes, sir. Out here repping the HMO Hot Media. We are joined by a special guest today. He is the co-founder of Sports on Tap podcast, the co-host of That Being Said with his brother Sammy, and the Just Talk podcast. You can find all that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. George Jarjour. How's it going, brother?
Hey, man, you nailed my last name, man. I'm surprised. So many people get it wrong, but you just nailed it there, so that's good. It's a pleasure to talk to you guys.
Likewise, man. Too. Nah, dude, I even practiced that before we got on, man. I made sure I wasn't going to get your name wrong.
That was good, man. You surprised me. I was like, he's going to George. You go with the last name. Everyone just messes that up so badly, but you got it.
Yes, I even had my girlfriend. I was like, I said it right? We were both listening together. George Jarjour, man. All these podcasts going on. Big sports guy coming out of Seattle, Washington. Like I said, congrats on 20K. Just hit 20K.
Thank you.
On Twitter. So we're just going to jump right into it, man. We were actually talking about the NBA playoffs and how it was potentially going to be just canceled for the remainder of the playoffs following the Jacob Blake shooting and the response that the Milwaukee Bucks started with, and then every other team and league followed suit. So I want to go ahead and start with you, George. Would you say that this is a successful or unsuccessful boycott, being that, some people argue it's pointless because stuff like this is still going to happen anyways. They already did all this to get the bubble set up. And then others saying that it's raising awareness and the conversation is more important than the playoffs. What are your opinions on that?
Man, it's tough because at the end of the day, look, there's two sides to every coin, right? We can go with the side that's saying, yeah, it's going to be, unfortunately, there's going to be bad and racist cops from now until eternity. And you just hope that the number of bad and racist cops goes down and not up. And we don't see incidents like we see with George Floyd, with Jacob Blake, and you want to see the positive change. But at the other end, people are like, well, what is this going to do? And I've been thinking about it quite a bit. I don't know if they just went out and wore Black Lives Matter shirts during the Bucks and Magic game, if the message would have been received the same as it got received when everyone decided to boycott, basically 2 full days of basketball. Or was that Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday? 3 full days of basketball. Mm-hmm. And the conversation came back up. So in a way, I think the best thing they did was take that 3-day break because we got the hiatus and we got people aware of what's going on and people talking and people having discussions. But I think coming back to the playoffs was important because if it didn't, 2 weeks from now, the NFL starts and the focus is going to just shift right to football anyway. And maybe the message gets lost during that transition period.
Lost in the sauce, man. It tends to happen. That's why I agree with you on that. The hiatus was important. I think everyone kind of got what they wanted there. Brooks, what's your opinion on this? Was it successful or unsuccessful in your eyes?
I'm kind of in between right now because, like George here said, being able to have that hiatus there and make sure that we were all hyper focused on the issue of police brutality once again was really important. And when you have such a tragic event happen, fortunately Jacob Blake didn't pass away. But he is paralyzed now, and this was kind of like, I don't want to say a perfect jolt, but it was that jolt of energy that we needed in order to, get back on track to things that matter beyond just basketball and beyond just sports in general. And another thing to think about is just, would it have been better to just cancel the playoffs in general? But then that's going to have longer term effects because, what happens with the CBA, what happens with the younger guys that might end up being vulnerable because they don't get their contract money and all that. It's a lot of things that you have to worry about besides just, the now, what's going to happen further down the line, a year from now, whatever it may be.
And one of the things I think is very important to note, we said it on our podcast with Mike, that's going to be dropping later about Major League Baseball. We mentioned how a lot of the NBA is comprised of African Americans. So the way I seen it was we didn't deserve the entertainment that comprised of mostly that when these guys, how can they focus on a high intensity playoff game when there's stuff like that? They're seeing it on Twitter, people getting shot. So definitely needed that time off. and I would say it's a success, but it's really up in the air.
It really is. And, a lot of people are going to come back and say, oh, the ratings are down, and this is because of all the political messages coming around in sports. And I kind of tell people to pump the brakes for a moment. I think this year all ratings are down. I mean, we're 2 weeks away from the NFL regular season starting. How many of you guys have been hearing about people talking about their fantasy draft this year? Because I've heard a lot less than I have every single year in my life. Yeah. So, the ratings are down, but I think ratings are going to be down across all sports, whether sports are political. Baseball ratings are down. The reason for that being, man, we're in a really critical year in our country's history, and not just coronavirus, but the upcoming election. And at the end of the day, I think sports is just taking a back seat right now. So I just feel like there's way too much criticism on the players, where so many people want to tell the players how they should feel. And you can't tell a man how they should feel. Like, if someone feels like this is an issue to them, I'm kind of tired of the Twitter trolls going around and saying, well, you make $10 million a year. Why are you so mad?
Yeah.
It's not even just the Twitter trolls. It's the media, sports media, especially the ones like the bigger ones like on ESPN and Fox Sports. They dictate a lot of the narrative at times, where these guys feel like they have to prove people like Skip Bayless wrong. Somebody who averaged 1.4 points, as we all know, in high school. People feel like they got to prove this guy wrong. And, it's just mentally it's tough for these guys to have to be able to lock into these games. But
yes, it's been an exhausting time, man. And
2020,
George,
man.
you hit the nail on the head, bro. Like, just because someone's making millions of dollars, that doesn't keep them close to the subject at hand.
Oh, absolutely.
Their whole family can be affected by something like that. You don't know what people are going through years in their past. George, Sterling Brown, he got tased by the police a couple of years ago. Thabo Cephalosha, he broke his leg from a police encounter just 4 years ago. Yep. You know what I mean? People are always going to be close to this, and I agree. I don't think we should continue to call it politics and sports, because sports and politics are always going to intersect.
Yeah, I mean, it's the same. Keep going. Sorry, I was just going to say that, like, the same guy who's telling them to keep politics out of sports, I'm just using random name, Bob is like an accountant, and he talks about politics all day. No one's telling him just keep you're an accountant, don't talk politics. Like, like, everyone has an opinion, and it doesn't mean whether someone agrees with the opinion or not. It doesn't matter. Everyone has an opinion. They should be able to speak it. And if you make $10 million a year, your opinion and your platform is much bigger than anyone else. So they should. They are talking for the masses, really.
People like LeBron James, they take the game further. I'm tired of seeing people online talking about people like LeBron are ruining the NBA, because, like you guys said, the mental health is really important when it comes to these things. Think about guys like DeMar DeRozan and Kevin Love, and they shine light on what's supposed to be, everyone's supposed to act strong, but this stuff is really tearing them down. And to just equate money to happiness, it shows that these people have no idea what these guys are going through, and they don't care to understand either. So those are the kind of people that want to bring politics into sports. It's just it's a crazy time that we live in. 2020 is taking no prisoners, man. And I actually, before we get into the next topic, I wanted to give quick condolence to Chadwick Boseman and to Cliff Robinson, two notable people that passed away last night. Chadwick, the actor from Black Panther, he died on Jackie Robinson Day. Was the star?
He played Jackie Robinson in 42 too.
Yeah, man.
He's been a lot of biopic roles.
Age 43, man. He was a very influential actor, and Cliff Robinson, not too known as a basketball player, but he was at one point in the 90s the sixth man of the year. He was an all-star. He also passed away. I really wanted to start the show off with that, but I was getting caught up already in the intro. But definitely condolences to those guys. And man.
How old are you guys, fellas?
24.
24.
All right, so you guys are my brother's age. He's 25. So we were talking about this morning before the pod, and he's like, I don't really remember Clifford Robinson, but I'm 32. So Man, Cliff Robinson was like the king of swag back in the day. He was the first guy to wear a headband, and he used to change the colors at halftime depending on if he played good or not. So I remember it because I was a Seattle Supersonics fan before the Sonics, got stolen to OKC, and we used to play the Portland Trailblazers.
We're gonna get to that later.
Rivals. So yeah, I really used to watch Clifford Robinson a lot, and he was dope.
Yeah,
definitely, man. R.I.P. Gone too soon. What were you gonna say, Brooks?
I was gonna say he was a part of some good Portland teams. I think he was on the team that went to the finals with Clyde Drexler, and they ended up losing to the Bulls and Jordan.
Yeah, man. So moving on to the next topic, man. We talked about the NBA and the boycotting, man. Let's talk about the NBA just taking the lead on a lot of these things, man, because we see Major League Baseball, the NFL, all the other major North American sports, they follow the lead of the NBA on a lot of these things. The pandemic being one of them, but most recently the whole boycotting situation. Why is it that the NBA is so far ahead of every other league in terms of letting their players be up in front on these social issues? I start with you, George, on this one. Why is it that the NBA is running laps around everyone like that?
Man, I've had this theory for years before even the pandemic, before all the social unrest. I think that the NBA has a very specific reason for it, and that is first of all, football people wear their helmets. You don't really see their faces. You don't really get to know the players. Yeah, we know Tom Brady's face. We know the Phillip Rivers face. We know Russell Wilson's. But for most part, we don't know the left guard on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers face. He can be walking down the street. We wouldn't even recognize him. Mike Trout, who's the best baseball player maybe in our lifetime, if he was at the grocery store, maybe 3 people would recognize him, and he would be able to go grocery shopping by himself. Meanwhile, you have the NBA players. I mean, most of them are really tall, 6'5", 6'6", 6'7". They stand out there. They wear just a tank top, shorts, so they're really like on the court 5 at a time. Camera in their face, so their face becomes recognizable, so their social media grows, and when their social media grows, their influence grows. So I think they are just like primed to be able to take the lead on things, just because they're out there, right? Like, we know who they are versus baseball players. And I mean, Mookie Betts, I guess a lot of people would recognize him, but I bet he's probably 6 foot or 6'1". If he was walking around at Disney World, he could probably blend right in. If LeBron James is walking around Disney World, everyone's running over to him trying to get, like, he's like more than Mickey Mouse. They'll be taking pictures of LeBron.
It'd be the main attraction, man. What do you think, bro?
Exactly.
Exactly.
How do you feel about this NBA running laps around everybody?
Man, I think it's just the history of the league itself and the history of the sports itself. You go back to the 60s with Bill Russell. He staged a boycott or a strike during an All-Star game to make sure that they got their union going on. You know what I mean? Like a decade or so later, Kurt Flood, was Kurt Flood basketball?
Baseball.
Baseball. Kurt Flood. So then that's not even part of my point then. Bill Russell, he did the boycott. Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, when he was at UCLA, he was able to, stage a protest and make sure that athletes didn't go to the 68 Olympics. All that, it's like a history of dissent with this sport, and I think that just carries over into the next generation, and I think that's what LeBron James and all those other players are carrying over. And when you have a commissioner who wants to collab with you, 2015, 2016, you remember Donald Sterling and what he was saying, and Donald Sterling, Adam Silver was immediately able to say, we don't want this in our league, and they got rid of him. And of course, it almost kind of backfired on him. Man, the players were like, okay, Adam Silver, he's cool with us. He lets us do what we want to do. So we're going to boycott this game, and we're going to make the league feel it a little bit more. And it puts him in a really tough position, because you already set that precedent of, okay, I'm going to listen to these guys, but how much power does he want to give to them? We live in a power player agency movement right now. You want the owners to have a little bit of power too if you're a commissioner. So it's going to be interesting going on moving forward.
Yeah, man. I know this is actually kind of more tied into the first topic, but I really wanted to get your guys' opinion on this, man. Mm-hmm. A lot of people were saying that LeBron James rubbed a lot of young guys off the wrong way. And I wanted to ask you, Brooks, because you were saying how you and I kind of disagreed on this, right? How
Yeah.
LeBron James was basically Lil Broing everybody, younger guys, in this meeting where they were trying to discuss the future of these playoffs this year, right? And you were
Right.
saying that he was in the wrong. I want to hear, why do you feel he was in the wrong for being that way? Because I don't feel like he was.
So, in my opinion, LeBron is once again he's a great leader for the sport. He's doing this player agency thing, making sure that players come first. You know what I mean? When it comes to going to Miami, taking the brunt of that blowback and saying, you know what, I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to maintain my own happiness. You know what I mean? He's carrying a lot of people's water. But at the same time, you have young players like Jaylen Brown, Trae Young, Malcolm Brogdon, guys that are out on that forefront with some community leaders, grassroots movements being a part of these protests. And LeBron James, he's so much bigger than some of these things going on as far as just like his money and his stature, his power. So it's going to be a little bit hard for him to go down and scale down a bit. So for him to just say, I'm just looking out for these little guys, you know what I mean? And he's not actually doing a whole lot to do that. In my opinion, I think it's wrong for him to do that because, more than a vote is important. Primary school is important, but try to level down with these guys, meet them where they are, instead of just trying to, be holier than thou.
What are your thoughts on that, George? The whole LeBron, Lil Man situation with these young guys?
Yeah, I got to agree with Brooks completely here. Look, LeBron James has done some great things. And I feel like if you go on Twitter and you criticize, if you say LeBron has done 10 great things and one bad thing, everyone calls you a hater. But it's really not like that because he does so many good things. But like you said, it's okay if the young guys have their own initiatives too. And instead of almost like, trying to put them in, have almost take power over everything, it's all right to work with everyone because this is not a situation where we're really looking for power. It's not a game, right? This is like moving the needle forward and trying to put the best initiatives forward. And Jaylen Brown might have some good things to say. Malcolm Brogdon. Maybe the 12th man on the Atlanta Hawks has something to say. So I think you just got to work together and not kind of like make it all about just like me.
Yeah, and I think Jaylen Brown the other day, he had a great point during their player meeting. He was talking about if we decide to cancel these playoffs, are we going to go down to Wisconsin? Are we going to go down to Portland and protest with these people? And, reportedly LeBron James was like, yeah, you're right. Is LeBron James going to be willing to do that? Is he going to be willing to meet us at our eye level?
Right.
And try to communicate with us and make sure that our voices are heard? Because, he's a millionaire and he does all these certain things, and he's going to look out for his personal interests. But the personal interest of one person doesn't necessarily benefit the benefits of the many.
Absolutely.
See, you put it that way. But the reason I initially disagreed is because the way I see it is that LeBron James, obviously he's a great basketball player. Obviously he's, very well known, has made the school. He always speaks out on political issues and social injustice. I think that he's done so much off the floor, with just off of his platform alone, not even spending money. I'm just talking about using his voice, right? I think that alone, he's put in enough work where it's, if you need to take the final word of a player, you got to go with LeBron James. The way I see it is like this guy is the law. He is the law of the NBA when it comes to the players. But the way you guys put it, where it's like you got other guys doing, like Jaylen Brown became, he actually got a lot of praise during these protests this year for what he was doing. Obviously, Kyrie, he was the one that wanted to come out and say, look, we shouldn't even come back. He didn't come back for the Brooklyn Nets. Other guys, too, obviously George Hill was taking the lead with the Milwaukee Bucks the other day. Putting it that way, man, it's a lot of other guys. It's not just a couple of young guys. It's a lot of young guys that are out there doing their thing, and they also got their own platforms. When you put it that way, man, like really putting it all in perspective, I do see what you mean, and I kind of lean a bit more towards that. But LeBron James, man, I feel like if you got to take the word of a player, man, we don't know exactly what was said. we can only
Right.
take things with a grain of salt, right?
Sure.
And I want to say this, Stephen A. Smith, I don't really trust him too much when it comes to these LeBron stories. It seems like a personal bias there, or like a personal beef that they got going on. So that's why I kind of take that with a grain of salt. We don't know exactly what was said, but LeBron James, we already know if LeBron James were to come out and say, look, guys, we're not playing, there's no basketball. And if
I agree.
Absolutely not. If LeBron James says no basketball, no basketball. And obviously, if he's pushing more towards it, it's most likely going to happen, right? So, if you talk about, we talk about all the young guys they're doing their thing, but LeBron James, he's gained seniority, man. Nobody has ever dominated the league on and off the court for as long as he has. Like, we've had, Michael Jordan was dominant on the court, Shaq dominant on the court, but the difference is, a lot of these superstars is, obviously social media has changed that, but none of them were as vocal as LeBron. LeBron has been vocal since he was a superstar, really. So
Right.
I think he's gained that seniority to kind of, when push comes to shove, this is a bunch of grown-ass men talking, and I think LeBron kind of felt that way, where it's like, you young kids, you guys don't have enough experience to know exactly. Obviously, I will say this. LeBron was being selfish, okay? He was being a bit selfish. I think he's thinking mostly, let's get the Lakers out there. I need my fourth chip. But still, with that being said, he's earned that. He's earned that on the court, off the court. I feel, respectfully has earned the right to sun a couple of these young guys, regardless of what they got going on. But times are crazy right now. So obviously tensions are high. People are going to feel sensitive and, offended by certain things that LeBron or, people probably even in LeBron's camp, they weren't involved in that, right? It's just the players, right?
That's what we think.
That's
Like
what
you
we
said,
think.
no one knows. What would you give to be a fly in that room?
Exactly,
Right.
man. Who knows if Rich Paul was on that Zoom
like
meeting?
Woj, right?
Yeah, I know, man. I mean, there's going to be stories coming out of this bubble for years that we really don't know much, and I can't wait till it's going to be like the
30 for
11th
30,
guy
dude.
on the Grizzlies or something who wrote the book and tell all from the bubble.
Nice. Yeah, I can't wait, man.
Yeah.
I think, and Pedro, you actually, on my fault, I'm sorry.
Go ahead, Brooks.
There was what you said there about, just being an older player and having a whole lot of rule. It brings me back to an episode we had a couple years ago. We were talking about who has the more power, who has more agency, older people or younger people. And we were all talking about, you remember what I'm talking about, right?
I do.
We were talking about, younger people do have more power because, they have the ability to dictate a whole lot more. And I think that's the case right here with LeBron and with these younger guys that you little bro. Like, these younger guys are going to have more, maybe like idealistic things where it might be unattainable, but you need fresh ideas and you need initiatives and action plans in order to create change, because the status quo is why we are where we are. So I think the younger guys definitely should take precedent and try to help LeBron see the light.
Well, to that point, I say this. Obviously, I still feel that way. I still feel, in the grand scheme of things, everything, not just basketball and like NBA terms, everything. The young people are really the ones that are pushing. What's going to be new, what's going to be, what the future of this world is. It's in the hands of the young people. I still feel that way. But in the NBA sense, when it comes to getting the NBA PA together, that's going to be Chris Paul and LeBron James, the older guys. Like, they are going to be the ones in that room with not only the loudest voice, but obviously the most pull. And they know the game much more than these young guys. And I feel like these young guys, obviously they want to step up, right? But I feel in the minds of like a LeBron James or Chris Paul, they say, we've been here. We know we've been in way more of these meetings than you guys have. Just sit back and let us take care of this. Is it right? Probably not. Is it fair? Probably not. But sometimes executive decisions need to be made, and they count LeBron James' opinion as an executive opinion to make an executive decision.
Right. And Pedro, you said something earlier that was so important, and about the influence and the power LeBron James had. I mean, look, I believe LeBron James is, there's always that GOAT conversation. I don't find him to be the GOAT. I find Michael Jordan to be.
Yep.
But power and an influence, LeBron's the most influential athlete in history of sports.
By a lot.
because he has this, man. I mean, I don't know if people are listening, but if you're watching, he has a phone. I held up my iPhone there on camera. He has a phone. Michael Jordan didn't have a phone to go tweet. He had to go through the media. He had to go.
Newspaper
he said
the next
Republican
day.
buy sneakers too. But if Michael Jordan tweeted that, oh boy, he would have gotten in some trouble. But you know what I mean? Like LeBron has the power to go send a message at any moment, at any time, and he's the most powerful athlete in history of all sports.
By a lot. The term social media influencer, right? It's so misconstrued. Everyone has their idea. When you say social media influencer, you think like a blonde white girl on TikTok. Like that's what most people would think, right? But LeBron James is a social media influencer. He is the embodiment of social media, and not only with direct messages, but also encrypted messages where he'll say little shit like he might tweet an emoji and then next day there's conversation on TV about it. What was LeBron talking about, thinking about? Is he taking shots at Kyrie or whatever? Like the media pulls stories out their ass just off of LeBron James tweeting an emoji. It goes to show the social media influence is so important, and now with social media being so powerful, LeBron is using that to kind of, help the NBA. Even I think social media takes a role here in deciding the NBA playoffs too. Like people want to make sure that the conversations are still being had, which is why they implemented the social issue initiatives. The three, I got them right here. The first one being, the NBA and its players have agreed to immediately establish a social justice coalition with representations from players, coaches, and governors that will be focused on a broad range of issues, et cetera, et cetera. Number two being, every city where the league franchise owns and controls the arena property, team governors will continue to work with local elections officials to convert the facility into a voting location. So that one was big. That one was super big. And then number three is, the league will work with the players and our network partners to create and include advertising spots in each NBA playoff game dedicated to promoting greater civic engagement in national and local elections, raising awareness around voter access and opportunity. Why is number three to me so important? Because you see the AT&T commercial, Flo from Progressive, it sticks in your mind. Like you think about, now Flo from Progressive. She fucking blew up off a commercial. So what better to replace one or two Flow spots with some protest stuff, with some election stuff, things that'll get people thinking about what we can do to better the situation that we all complain about so much. Oh, fuck Trump, fuck Biden, but we don't do anything to get ourselves aware. They're force feeding it now, and in a good way. I don't mean that in a bad way. In a good way, where
absolutely.
The NBA should have been doing this. So back to like we said in the first topic, that's the success in itself, is that the NBA is implementing these things just off of the hiatus. It didn't need a cancellation. We got playoff games in like an hour, and we still got this. So that's a win. That's a win in my book.
Me too. I mean, I'm ready to watch some ball too. So
definitely, man, definitely. I guess we can just actually go into these predictions, man. We got 3 games today. It was supposed to be the games that got boycotted on Thursday. These are Game 5, Bucks and Magic. Who you guys taking?
I'm taking the Bucks. I think the series is over now. I mean, Orlando's lucky; they're already home, so they don't have to go too far after the game. But they'll be leaving the bubble this afternoon.
I agree, bro. Gentleman's sweep. It has to be a gentleman's sweep. Giannis has to, get over that wall. The Magic have been able to form and, just take over this last game and put them away.
But shout out to the Magic. They've played pretty good this series. They've showed a lot of grit.
They played all right.
Yeah, I mean, for an 8 seed.
But I got to give them mad props for pouncing on the Bucks in Game 1. I honestly think that one win was so beneficial to every other team that's going to play the Bucks, because he kind of exposed some cracks in his playoff game in that first game. You all see what I'm saying later, but the same way it's a gentleman's sweep for the Bucks, it's a 3-0 sweep on this panel. I'm going Bucks as well. It's over. Right. Giannis is going to do his 35 and 15, no problem. They're going to win by 30 points. It's not even going to be an entertaining game. The next game, will do
his 35 and 15 in like 28 minutes, man. That guy
easily
just stuffs the stat sheet like in 29 minutes, 35 points. Like, when did that happen?
Ridiculous.
He gets to sit the whole fourth quarter and have an all NBA performance. It's fucking amazing,
I know.
man. So game number 2 is that's the first game of the next series, right?
No, they moved it. It's gonna be Rockets Thunder now.
Rockets Thunder is the game
Thunder.
number 2. Who you guys taking?
Yep.
Hey, I
Brooks
said
go first.
it was going to be Game 7, right?
You did?
We're gonna go Game 7. We have a bet going on, Pedro and I. It's tied up 2-2 right now.
Yep.
I'm gonna say Rockets take control of the series right now and take game 6. It'll be 3-2, but I think that no, it'll be game
5.
Game 5.
Game 5.
Game 5. My fault.
You good?
I barely passed math in college, guys. Either way, Rockets take control of the series today, but I think I'm still gonna predict the OKC Thunder get out and make it to the second round.
Nice. How about you, George?
All right, so this is my, it's a great series, but first of all, I hate the Oklahoma City Thunder for obvious reasons of being a Seattle Supersonics fan.
Yep.
Least favorite team in the NBA, and I cannot stand watching James Harden play basketball. I just can't do it. I can't watch
It
the
hurts
Rockets.
your heart, right?
It hurts my heart. Like, this is not supposed to be what basketball is. I like some movement. I like some back cuts. I don't like the dribble, step back, fall down. He does get fouled, by the way. It is a foul when they step on him. But,
Are you talking about his game? I thought you meant him that he used to play for, you didn't become a fan of OKC, did you?
No, I never became. Maybe that's why. Maybe I was just always biased towards James Harden, and he used to chop up the Washington Huskies when he was at Arizona State too.
Sure did.
So I've hated James Harden since the day he got into the NBA. So this series is literally like the hardest thing for me because I hate the Rockets, I hate the Thunder. I hope it goes 7 games, and I hope that Game 7 goes into 27 overtimes. They all get so tired that they get swept in the second round, whoever wins. But that being said, I'm taking the Thunder today to take a 3-2 series lead.
Damn, man. I want to say, because at first I was so confident about the Rockets. They won the first 2 games. I was on fire with my prediction. I was getting everything right. Next thing you know, they win. I think James Harden fouls out of Game 3. I think the next game, Chris Paul or somebody went. I think Dennis Schroeder went for like 30 points in that game.
Yeah.
And now it's like
I said, he would.
Now it's like, yo, what the is going on? So I still got Rockets in 7, but I got OKC taking it tonight. I think it'll go to overtime. I think that today is going to be everyone's going to play with a chip on their shoulder. Everyone that's playing today that's going to be televised playing basketball today is going to be playing with an extremely heavy chip on their shoulder, having the resumption and all that. And I think Chris Paul is going to go crazy tonight. I think Dennis Schroeder could drop another 20 to 25 tonight. Alexander, man, he could. I can't even pronounce that name. Shai Gilgeous.
Shai Gilgeous. I can't even say it either.
Just Alexander.
I think he's going to have a good night tonight, man. And I just have this feeling that James Harden, man, might just shoot his team out of this game tonight. I'm not sure he's going to have a great game, but I feel like towards the end he's going to shoot him out. And OKC is taking this one tonight.
Hey, I hope you're right, man. I enjoy watching James Harden struggle in the playoffs personally.
I think the biggest thing to think about is the fact that Russ is coming back today, too.
Yep.
And he was looking pretty good at the scrimmage yesterday, according to Woj. So it's going to be a big factor for tonight.
So Russ is coming back, man. That's exactly why I feel like James Harden is going to shoot him out the gym, because them two playing together is like, give me the ball, give me the ball, give me the ball. It's like 30 shot attempts per player. It's incredible. I've never seen anything like it, unless it's KD and Russell Westbrook.
Yeah.
This shit is
Man,
crazy.
I'm with you on that. And that's why I can't stand watching the Rockets. Like, it just, to me, it's not real. It's not the way basketball should be played, personally. It's just how I feel
so
about
what do you
them.
think about their statistics? Like, they're so like godly with the numbers, the analytics. Like, what are your thoughts on that? Is that are those misleading stats?
No, because they're incredible basketball players, right? I mean, both Russell Westbrook and James Harden, like, I could hate on James Harden as much as I want, or Russell Westbrook. They're Hall of Famers. They're some of the best players we'll ever see in our lifetime. But sometimes, and I put this on Mike D'Antoni a little more, you got to have some type of adjustments, right? Like, the last game, I think they missed like 18 threes in the fourth quarter, and they're still chucking up threes. And it's like, man, Mike D'Antoni, call a timeout and run a play to go get a basket inside. So sometimes, yeah, you put up these big stats because they're incredible players, but at the end of the day, when it gets to like that fourth quarter, 3 minutes left, you need to run a set play to get a good shot out of a timeout. I think just the reps of not doing things the right way all year comes back to bite you.
Definitely.
Yes, it's hard when you have just one specific style and two similar players.
Yep.
Russell Westbrook is a worse shooter by far.
Oh,
James Harden is, but like they play just so fast, and they play. It's just hard to see them being able to prevail going later into the playoffs. And you already know Russell Westbrook isn't the championship point guard that you want to surround a team with. KD was right. I don't care what anybody says.
I agree with you.
Russell Westbrook isn't the championship point guard you want to surround talent with. And I like Russell Westbrook. I don't think his MVP season was warranted. I think it was just because it was a narrative. But that's a whole other discussion we can have.
Wasn't warranted. That MVP was very warranted.
It was, sure, but again, it was narrative based. I think James Harden had the more important season. Again, another discussion.
By MVP standards, you're probably right about that. All right.
Yeah. And I mean, if he did, let's just say, I think he clinched getting the triple-double in the last game of the season. Let's just say he got one less rebound or two less rebounds and averaged 30 and 10 and 9.8. Now, does he not win the MVP? That's why it's like, you're right, it's narrative based. If he averaged 9.9 rebounds, you don't get the MVP. But if you average 10 rebounds, now you're the MVP.
He said he was going to go for the MVP during the pregame stuff anyway, and he said, "Oh yeah, I'm coming. I'm going to prove everybody wrong. I'm going to prove KD wrong." And the media was like, "Oh, let me eat this up. I'm gonna make sure he becomes the MVP." And what did he do? Ended up becoming MVP. And James Harden had the better, arguably, season team-wise. Because I think MVP should go to the best team on the best, or best player on the best team. And Russell Westbrook's team was the 6th seed, and they were struggling throughout the season. And Russell Westbrook was just playing hero ball the whole year.
I wanted to ask you guys, like, the whole James Harden thing, man. It seems like he's not. Would you guys consider him to be like a fraud when it comes to the biggest playoff moments? Is that a fair thing to label James Harden? Because that's what it's starting to look like to me from what I've seen. Playoff fraud in the biggest of moments.
I say absolutely until he proves otherwise. I mean, the guy's been nothing short of disappointing in the biggest playoff moments. Yeah, he's put up some big stats. He's put up the points, but sometimes they seem like they're empty points, right? When there's 4 minutes left of a basketball game and you're down 4 points and you need buckets, James Harden has not done it in the playoffs. And until he does, which he's only, 29 years old, right? Mm-hmm. I think he's 29. He still has time to prove people like me wrong and shut me up. But until he does, I'll go on Twitter after every bad playoff performance and be like, hey, where are you James Harden fans at?
Hey, it started off in the finals. His 3rd year in the league. He struggled heavily against the Heat, and it keeps on carrying over. And he can average 28, 29, 30 points a game. But if it's coming off like very bad efficiency, and the guys are missing 27 out of like 43, something like that, then yeah, you deserve to carry around that loser label. It's not like with Chris Paul, right? Every time he loses in the playoffs, it's because of health, or it's because of some crazy, let's say, comeback, right? With when they were up 3-1, and then
I don't remember I
don't remember who the team was that came back on them.
Rockets.
But yeah, it's just the Rockets.
And James Harden was on the bench for that fourth quarter. He was on the bench.
That doesn't help either.
Yeah, it's
hurts
bad.
him.
I mean, and Chris Paul is like one of the greatest point guards ever, but he is not going to be a great winner when it comes to like the playoff stuff. And James Harden is a good winner in the regular season, but in the playoffs, we continue to see him struggle.
Definitely, man. I had a whole debate with this guy about who would I take. Would I take Steph Curry or James Harden for a career? I'm going to take Steph Curry 10 times out of 10 because the guy revolutionized the three-point shot. We already know what he did. He got championship DNA. Yes, he had a better team, but this man's play was much more fit for team success. He actually played great offensive basketball. Not to say James Harden does, he's the best offensive player in the league, but it's very me-oriented. It's not team-oriented. Yeah. So that doesn't help in the playoffs. And Steph Curry's game actually helps them in the playoffs, regardless of who's on their team. Because the Rockets have some pretty good teams, too.
Pedro, can you elaborate on that? Because I'm with you 100%. Like, I don't understand how people don't appreciate Steph Curry as much as they should. He's after LeBron James, he's the second best player of our generation. I mean, after Kobe retired.
Watch college basketball, high school basketball, middle school basketball. They're shooting threes now. That wasn't a thing before Steph Curry. It was get in the paint, we get high percentage shots. Steph Curry kind of hacked the NBA where you can score more points quicker. That's how he's shooting 3-pointers with like 20 seconds left on the shot clock. Everyone does that now. Even LeBron is starting to practice more and LeBron is a good 3-point shooter in my opinion. I think he's very underrated as a 3-point shooter, but Steph Curry changed the entire landscape of the NBA with that shot, and he's a great offensive player where he finds his guys. Yes, he has a great team, but I'm tired of that being an excuse for his great facilitating. The guy is a great passer. He's a great driver. He could shoot from three. He's a 3-level scorer, man. Like, he has it all.
And he's a leader.
And he's a leader.
Yeah, he is.
He's a leader at the end of the day where he can get the guys around him. Like, when Klay Thompson is hot, Steph Curry will take like 5 shots and just chill in the corner. Just keep giving it to Klay. He's a team guy. James Harden is the kind of guy where he dribbles the clock all the way out, and if he's going to pass, it's going to be a bad look to the corner. Hopefully, PJ Tucker's in the corner. He's the best three-point specialist in the corner. But outside of that, he's not getting guys rhythm shots. He's getting guys bailout shots. Here, take it because I can't do it. That's not winning basketball in the playoffs, especially when you get tired, man. People don't realize it's a very draining game mentally and physically. And once you make it to all the way to that point, you got nothing left to give if it's you against the world. But Steph Curry, on the other hand, he knows how to get other people involved, and not only that, he's a better shooter. So
yeah. And he's chopping at the lips right now, man. He's watching the playoffs right now. He's like, "Oh, wait till I'm back next year."
Oh man,
sure. I think Pedro, you nailed it on the head earlier, talking about he's a better team offensive player. Like, not all even around. Just the shooting and him being able to like facilitate maybe a little bit better than James Harden was. I mean, you see James Harden go down the lane, and he's either gonna do the Euro or he's gonna throw a lob up to somebody else. Mm-hmm. But you talk about Steph. He's a great screen setter. He's going to get anybody off the ball open. Too. His gravity, like you hear that a lot from the ESPN, right? Oh, he draws so many people to him. Like, that's what helps Klay Thompson get free. That's what helps KD when KD was with them. That's what helps him get paid. Like, he's just the greatest offensive package that you can have for a team with so many good shooters and so many great playmakers on it. And yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing them play next season in the bubble, or back at not at Oracle, but the stadium in San Francisco.
Yeah. New one, yep. Chase Arena, I think.
Chase Center.
Chase Center. There we go.
There we go.
Yeah, man.
Back in Tech Valley.
So Steph Curry over James Harden, but are we talking about individual? Who's better? Like, just as an individual, it could go either way. I might take James Harden, might take Steph Curry, depending on how I feel. But we're talking about who I want on my team. I want Steph Curry on my team. So
unanimous MVP stuff.
Oh yeah,
he was everything because he was able
the face
to
of the NBA. Took it from LeBron.
He did everything you wanted to do.
That might have been the best regular season in history of NBA basketball.
73 wins. I don't care if he didn't win the chip. 73 wins, 30 points per game, 50, 40, 90. Led the league in steals too. Fucking phenomenal, man.
I know. I love Steph, though, but I'm biased. Steph is like, I will go to war for Steph.
I see, man. I think I would on this one, too. But moving on to the last game of the night, it's going to be the primetime matchup. Dame time, CJ and Melo versus LeBron, AD, and the Los Angeles Lakers. Who you guys taking on this one, Brooks, man? Who you got?
Well, Dame time, he sprained his knee.
He's not playing. That's
so he's
right.
not going to be there anymore.
Dame time is no game time.
Yeah, it's going to be a lot of pressure on CJ and Melo. Gary Trent Jr., all those guys. And without Dame there, I don't think they have the water to really, matter in this game. And I think it's going to be a gentleman's sweep once again for the Lakers.
Yep, same here. No Dame. That's a huge problem, obviously. He already left the bubble, too, so even if they win this game, I don't know if he can come back and play. It's kind of unfortunate, but yeah, it's over for them. They played a lot of tough games, though. I mean, they came into the bubble. Every game was like a playoff game. They just ran out of steam.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, that's really physically draining when you're playing that intensely and with that much passion, and like you can't carry that over for, let's say, like 7 game series in the playoffs. Like,
Right.
it wears you down, and I think that's what happened with Dame. Like, he was playing so hard, and his body just gave out in some way, and that's how he hurt his knee.
Yeah, he's getting surgery. He left the bubble to go back to Portland for surgery. So regardless what happens, even if they have a miraculous comeback, he's done. He's not coming back to the Portland Blazers. But the Portland Blazers, just like the Magic, they're going to lose by 40 points, 30 points. It was happening with Dame on the floor anyway, so this game is over. There's really nothing to... The only game I'm looking forward to is Rockets and Thunder. That's going to be a fantastic game. The other 2 games, blowouts. We're all in agreement on that. And LeBron James, man, AD, they're going to move on to the second round. I want to ask you guys this, man. Is it going to be AD's or LeBron's team moving forward? Because they look like they're not sure who's going to do it yet. Who is it going to be, George? Is it going to be LeBron? Is it going to be AD?
Brooks, I'll let you go first. That's a tough question, my man.
I think Pedro and I actually had a conversation about this like a week or 2 ago.
Right.
And I see AD being the guy moving forward. This is something that's been said over the course of the whole season. LeBron James wants the team to run through AD. So why would that change over the playoffs? And AD's still trying to figure it all out. He struggled those first couple games, and then he erupted game 3, game 4, about to be game 5. I think LeBron James knows what he has in AD. I think he's probably the most talented sidekick he's had since Kyrie. And I think he fits better than Kyrie does, too, being that big man, being able to score, once again, he's like a 3-level scorer that we've been talking about, mid-range, in the post, layups, finishing lobs, all that good stuff. And we're going to have to see if they can get more shooting around them and get like better guard play, because that's where the Portland Trailblazers really outclassed them, was guard play. Like Damian Lillard and CJ McCollum, they're gonna kick your ass. They're gonna wear you out. And who did the Lakers have? They had Rajon Rondo, they had Alex Caruso, they had
Avery Bradley.
Quinn Cook has barely played. J.R. Smith and Dion Waiters are still smacked. They're still on other stuff. So yes, I think it's AD's time, and I think LeBron James recognizes that.
Yeah, and I to your point, I do agree with that. I have to, but I think it's be very strategic by LeBron. Maybe, the first 3.5 quarters of the basketball game in a tight game, you let AD get his, you kind of not rest up, but you strategically, keep something in that gas tank. So the last 6 minutes of the game, LeBron can try to take over if it's needed, right? And LeBron's really good at that. He's not only the best basketball player of our generation, he's also the smartest basketball player of our generation. And he knows when he needs to put it, full throttle, or when he needs to take a step back and then attack when the time is right. And he has no problem letting other people take over. We saw that in the series when the Cavaliers came back down 3-1. He let Kyrie take the biggest shot of the series. LeBron's not selfish like that.
Yeah,
definitely. I agree with that. The narrative that LeBron is a selfish basketball player, it's so far from the truth. LeBron is the most unselfish superstar we've ever seen, and it's hurt him and helped him at times. So LeBron James, I'm gonna have to say this, man. Brooks was saying it's gonna be AD's team moving forward. I gotta say, man, I don't know, because I think LeBron's main goal now, if they win a championship, of course, because obviously the main goal right now is win a championship, but beyond this season, if they win the championship, right, his sole focus is going to be playing on the NBA at the same time as his son. So I think that's going to drive him to have at least like 2 or 3 more elite years before he really starts to like fall off that theoretical cliff that Max Kellerman talks about all the time, where it's like he's going to have at least 2 more All-NBA seasons, right? 2 to 3. And then he kind of starts to go to just All-Star, and then, we'll see what happens after that. But I think that the fact that he's waiting on his son is going to motivate him to have some great years. LA is going to do whatever they can to keep him in town, more so than Anthony Davis. I think if Anthony Davis gets unhappy and LeBron gets unhappy, they have to choose a side. We already know which side they're going with. So I think just off of that alone, man, I think that LeBron is still like the future, at least for the immediate future of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Yeah, but couldn't, the way I look at it is yeah, he is, but he can make Anthony Davis feel like he is. You know what I mean? Like
he already
it's
does.
still-
He already
yeah.
does.
You know what? You go get your 30 points and 15 rebounds for the first 45 minutes of the game. I'll take over in the last 3. So it is LeBron's team, but he's giving Anthony Davis the keys of a car to drive.
That's true. That's true.
Pedro, I gotta disagree with you on that last point you made. Even when Kobe and Shaq, right, they were in their prime and they were winning championships three times in a row. Like Jerry Buss and Jerry West and all them, like they chose Kobe because Kobe's going to be the younger guy. You can build around him longer than you can LeBron James, and I think that's why they would want to pick AD. AD specifically wanted to go to LA anyway because off the court he can be able to do a whole lot more than he can anywhere else in the league, except maybe New York. Like, yeah, I think Lakers management might be a little bit smarter in deciding to choose AD and then maybe another sidekick going around. And I have another question to pose for you guys. Do you guys trust?
Hold that question real quick. I just want to say one thing before you ask that question. You're talking about Shaq versus Kobe. Shaq was already getting big, getting kind of old. LeBron is still in fantastic shape. He's still head above the rim. And you're talking about an Anthony Davis who's proven to be way more injury prone, even at a way younger age, less mileage on his body. I personally, if I'm a GM, if I'm Rob Pelinka, I'm thinking I might want LeBron on my team instead of Anthony Davis, even at an advanced age.
Maybe, I mean, so to prove or to counter your point, at that point, Shaq was already kind of injury prone himself too, and he was already recovering on company time. You know, you might remember that, George. Like he was saying, I got hurt on company time. I'm gonna get back on company time. So at that point, Shaq was in his 30s at that point. He was able to get back whenever he wanted to. And Pedro, you're right. AD is a little injury prone, but when you talk about just long term being able to build a team around somebody, I would choose AD right now. And maybe if you can get LeBron like on a smaller, cheaper contract, maybe you can, or maybe just like let him do what he did with the Cavs and sign like 1-year deals over and over again. We'll see what happens. Maybe he wants LeBron to play with him in LA. Maybe he'll go back to Cleveland.
Nah, realistically
speaking, a lot of
speaking,
questions.
I'm gonna let you right after I say this. Go ahead and ask that question. But realistically speaking, it's really possible and actually likely that LeBron probably would do something like that. Take a lesser contract, give AD more money. So it's possible that it could go either way. I just think LeBron. But go ahead. What were you gonna ask us though? You said you had a question for us.
I was gonna ask you guys. We know what LeBron wants to do in those closing minutes, being that playmaker, wanting to make the right play, right? But who are you most concerned about on that roster to be the closer going down the stretch? Like LeBron had Dwayne Wade, he had Chris Bosh, he had Kyrie for a stretch of time there. Like, who's going to be that guy they're going to be scared as hell to see coming down the lane, shooting a three, going up for a dunk, making those big plays that you need to win a game?
Alex Caruso? No, I'm kidding. Honestly, that's such a good question. I mean, we saw here in the first round, we saw KCP finally kind of starting to hit some threes from the corner. Danny Green, I don't know what's going on there, but he can't shoot like this forever. But that's a good question because they don't have that guy.
Yeah.
You're right. They just don't have it. And I don't know who it's going to be. Maybe Danny Green wakes up and starts hitting threes like he did in Toronto. But if he doesn't, I don't know who that guy is. I don't know. What do you think, Pedro?
I was gonna say, man, we already saw Kuzma hit a big shot, so I think if you have to have a guy I personally think it needs to be LeBron James, 'cause that's my biggest problem with him is, he I might come off like Skip a little bit, but bro, take the fucking shot. Don't pass it.
I know.
Take the shot. That's why one of the biggest things I love about MJ, he takes the shot. LeBron is that dude, man. People fear him on a basketball court. Take the fucking shot. But if it's not going to be him, it's got to probably be Kuzma because he's like the next best late three-point shooter that I've seen. KCP's not hitting shit. JR, I don't trust him.
JR don't trust JR.
Yeah, I don't think anybody. He doesn't even trust him. Dion Waiters, man. Anthony Davis, I don't know if I want him taking a three. If I need a bucket with like less than a second, you need to tip it up, give it to Anthony Davis, or if you want like a quick turnaround, give it to LeBron. It has to be either LeBron. If you need a three and it's not LeBron, I'll take Kuzma.
How about you, Brooks? You posed a question, so I think you got an answer in your head, right?
Yeah. I mean, that's a fair question. That's a fair thing. I honestly don't know. I mean, I would expect LeBron James to just decide to go 2015 Finals mode and just take over in that last minute there. But
right,
his track record is a little shaky there, but he has a resume of being able to hit buzzer-beating shots and being able to lead the playoffs. Like we think about back to 2007. Being able to score the last 27 points against the Pistons and win that series. Like there are some moments sprinkled in there with the failures, and that's with anybody's resume. But I mean, the clear answer is LeBron James. But going forward, like you have to find that guy like Kyrie or Dwayne Wade that can finish off those plays for you. And that's the reason why I even asked that question is because I had the Clippers being able to beat the Lakers simply because they have three good closers with Lou Williams, PG-13, when he's got his head right, and then Kawhi Leonard.
We like playoff P, not pandemic P.
Yeah, we like playoff P.
They're two completely different.
He's been struggling. Players, I was happy for him last game that he played well, and
it was bound to happen. It's
bound to happen. And I actually, on our podcast, me and my brother, we talked about it, and I think Kawhi Leonard might be an underrated leader. If you guys remember when Kyle Lowry 2-3 years ago was struggling in the playoffs, Kyle Lowry was like the worst playoff three-point shooter ever. I think he averaged like 6 points in that series against the LeBron James and the Cavaliers, and shooting under 30%. Yeah, and under 30% from the field. And then Kawhi Leonard comes in, and all of a sudden he gives him some confidence, and all of a sudden he plays good. So maybe he'll do the same thing with Paul George. I have a feeling that Kawhi Leonard is sneakily like a really quiet, confident leader, kind of like Tim Duncan. I think he learned from Tim Duncan in San Antonio.
He taught his teammates how to not give a fuck about the moment. That's one of the biggest things that he taught, because I look at the Raptors before when they get swept by LeBron every year. They're more demonstrative. They're more emotional on the court. They argue with each other. As soon as Kawhi comes, and this is when I knew. They won Game 3 against the Warriors in the finals. They were up 2-1, right? They weren't celebrating. They go up 3-1. Still no celebration. They're ice cold. They went straight Mamba mentality where they're like, we're up 3-1, but we're not out here like, like high-fiving and shit. Like, they used to win, like, Game 7 against the Nets, right? I think it was, who won that? The Raptors and Nets like a minute ago. I think
Paul Pierce, he blocked Kyle Lowry in that
right, the Nets won that.
Yep.
But they used to win like first round series and be like, whoa, like high fiving like they won the championship. And then when Kawhi comes, he teaches them how to just focus on winning 4 games in the NBA Finals. And now you can see their whole mindset is different. Like Pascal Siakam, all of them, like they have a different vibe about them, especially Kyle Lowry, a guy who was a terrible shooter, is now he's pulling up, like he's heat checking. He's learned how to be a winner. Kawhi taught them how to the same way D Wade taught LeBron how to be a winner. Kawhi teaches his teammates how to be winners, and Paul George would be just fine. He's super talented. He's 6'9", can shoot whenever he wants. He'll be all right.
I think so too. So I never it's the San Antonio school. Greg Popovich and Tim Duncan taught Kawhi Leonard well.
Yeah, definitely. Last topic, man. I wanted to ask you, bro. You had a very notable guest on one of your podcasts. I was like, whoa, this the Twitter legend himself, Barry McCockiner, man.
Yep.
How did that happen, bro? Walk us down that path. How did that happen?
Man, I just reached out to him. I was like, yo, you're some. You guys swear on this podcast?
Yeah.
I was like, man, you're batshit crazy. Can I talk to you on my podcast? He's like, yeah, sure. So he called me. He didn't give me his real name. I still have no idea who he is. He told me that he's like literally like an accountant or some like office job, and he just tweets this shit out, and he knows that's gonna get a reaction. Nice. And like no one knows who he is. Like his friends like don't know about it. Like his parents don't know about it. And he just has this like ultra ego, and he just sits there. And he said, you know how he has the picture of the doctor?
Yeah.
So the doctor's on some commercial. You can Google that
Yeah.
doctor. The doctor reached out to him and is like, "Yo, man, I don't know if I want you to use my face on these tweets." And he's like, "Nah, I'm still gonna fucking use your face on these tweets."
You ever
That's
seen a real
awesome.
picture of him before?
Say that again.
You ever seen a picture of him before?
No, the doctor or the
actual
guy?
actual dude. I've seen pictures of this guy
Oh, you
before.
found it? I haven't even seen it. I didn't even know they were on they're on the internet.
Bro, people are so quick to dox people to find out everything, man. Like I don't know what his name is, but people found his Facebook and like pictures of him, like like his relatives and all this other stuff. But that's aside from the point. I'll cut that part out. I just wanted you to know that. But having him on your podcast, I thought that was crazy because I think that might have been around the time when I followed you. But I was like, yo, like this guy is one of the biggest trolls in the sports Twitter world, man. Like he's gotten people. He got Skip Bayless to talk about him, like a story he created on Undisputed. Had like all types of people on the radio. Bro, this guy is hilarious. The only ones I can't rock with are the Mahomes ones because that's my favorite player in the league, man. I can't rock with those at all, ever.
Yeah. But you know what? To give the guy some credit, he has to do this under a fake name because if he had this under a real name, he'd probably get death threats left and right. I mean, he's tweeting some really vulgar stuff that, like I wouldn't even do it under a fake name because I would feel dirty writing him.
Is he your favorite Twitter personality? Favorite NBA Twitter guy?
My favorite, man, I don't know who my favorite Twitter personality is. That's a good question. Who's your guys? I gotta think about that for a second.
In the sports world or in general?
Either one.
On Twitter, man, my favorite sports. Barry is up there, man. Stephen A. Smith burner account is a good one.
Yeah, that's a good one.
Lake Show, I love Lake Show. He's tough.
Yeah.
Mama Brooks. Hello.
hey, mom. What's up?
What's up, mom?
Okay, I'll see you.
You're on oven duty in 20 minutes. Turn off the oven.
Okay. Bye.
But yeah, Lake Show is definitely up there. Cryptic No One, I guess, is a sports account also. I just like seeing the perfect, like not one specific person, but I love seeing the Bronze Sexuals and the MJ Stans clash on Twitter all the time. I love it.
Yeah, that's
I know. I do it all the time too, man. I decided, and I tweeted this the other day. I'm just gonna not be in that conversation anymore. Like it's over. Like until LeBron wins again, Jordan's the greatest of all time. I'm just not getting in the conversation.
Facts.
I'm not even listening to it anymore.
Been saying that shit, man.
But no, but you know what I've realized, like doing this now for 2 years, most people are super nice. Like, Barry McCockner is like a pretty, big and well-known account. You reach out to a few people and you're nice. Most people are willing to talk to you. And it's kind of nice because back probably 20 years ago, we weren't going to be able to get anyone on a podcast that's new, right? You need a booking, you need an agent, you need all this stuff. And it's hard too. You have a crazy phone line that connects to a wire, and now it's easy. And I feel like as long as you're a nice person, and honestly, I've interviewed like a lot of girls, and girls are nicer than guys for some reason. like I feel like us men sometimes have egos.
For sure.
Definitely.
But women are like, oh, a podcast. Oh, maybe I pick up 10 followers, 20 followers, 100 followers, whatever. It's an opportunity, and they jump on. So, like, as you guys continue to grow, and as we continue to grow, me and my brother, like, reach out to people. Like, most people are willing to talk as long as it fits their schedule.
Right.
Yeah, that's the greatest thing about social media, right? It's accessibility.
Right.
I was able to talk to a couple, like, NBA writers and like, small-time newspaper people because of Twitter. Right. I probably would have never been able to do that if you were talking about, like, back in the day, just using emails or just trying to call people. And I think, once again, social media is great for that reason.
It really is. There's some bad things about social media, but there's some really good things.
Yeah.
Definitely, man. There's always the dark ends and the deep ends of Twitter, man. But as far as, the whole podcasting thing goes, I think it's great that this platform exists, for people to go out and speak. And my father said something a little while back. It really was like, wow, it's crazy to think everybody has Twitter on their phone. It's like a bunch of journalists just running around, like trillions of journalists just running all over the place, can report things at any moment. And then let's say something happens in the NBA, I could just DM you, be like, yo, man, like, you want to hop on the podcast? Within, like, you know, depending on the schedule, we could be within in like an hour already on the camera doing a whole podcast.
It could be within 5 minutes if both of us are on a computer.
Exactly. The accessibility, like Brooks said, the fact that, you know, basically I would say I spend 70% of the time on my phone, like, and I'm always doing something social media wise with the podcast. I also run a drone business doing that. It's crazy.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, man, thank you. It's crazy what you can do on your phone. You can walk around anywhere. You can go to the toilet with it. You can do whatever, like, anywhere on earth. To the point now where, like, not having a phone feels super awkward. Like, you don't know what to do.
And let's not hide the fact we all go to the toilet with our phone, man. That's the only reason, like, we can't go without it. You don't got a newspaper in there.
Yeah, it's bad. It's real bad.
But yeah, man, definitely. George, man, I appreciate you for joining us today on the podcast. Definitely go check out his podcast. Let's go. Sports on Top podcast. That Being Said podcast with his brother Sammy, and the host of the Just Talk podcast. Yep. Find all that on Apple Podcasts, Spotify. Yeah, man, definitely. Oh, and one last thing I wanted to mention here that I had in my notes. I wanted to ask you about. You interviewed Enes Kanter, man. How was that?
Yep. Man, one of the nicest guys I've ever talked to. Like a little backstory. I had this girl named Emily Austin. You can find her on Instagram. She's really good. She does interviews with a bunch of athletes. So I saw she interviewed Enes, and I was like, hey, do you mind if you give me the introduction? So she did, and I'm from Syria originally. That's like where I was born, and my parents are immigrants, and I came here as a kid. And Enes is obviously from Turkey, which is a neighboring country. So right away, like, I messaged him. I'm like, hey, man, I would love to talk to you. Would you like to come on our podcast? The first question is like, oh, you're from Syria? ? How's your family doing there? So me and him started talking about, like, family, and talked about his family. And now we, like, reach out to each other when like, if something happens. His dad got out of jail the other day, finally, in Turkey. He was in jail, I think, for 11 years. So I messaged him, and he messaged back, like, thanking me. He's, like, so happy. One of the nicest athletes I've ever encountered. He just, like, so humble and so nice and really smart, right? I mean, you hear these stories of immigrants and what they had to go through to get here, and how, especially him being a social activist and not even allowed in his country, like, it's a remarkable story. And I hope people, like, listen to his story, because, like, you can get really good examples of how to, like, perseverance. I can never say that word through his podcast.
That's crazy to think about too. Like, this is a man without a country right now, simply because he wanted to speak against what was going on with the Turkish government. You know, like you said, his dad was in jail because of his son's activism, and now his dad is out. You know, I mean, this is someone who's, like, in fear of his life if he wanted to go to Toronto for a game. Like,
I know
that guy is just amazingly brave, and kudos to you for, one, getting that interview, but then getting a friend in that and being able to just, like, relate so well with each other.
Yeah, he's awesome. And by the way, fellas, one more thing I want to say before. We'd love to have you guys on our me and my brother's podcast one day. So maybe we can, after this, we'll set something up. I'll talk 100%. To him, and we'll see what day we can do it.
100%. We'll definitely
before the next round, once all the matchups are set, I think it'd be fun.
Yeah, let's get it, man. Definitely. We'll see what's the next available day where all of us are free, and let's make that happen for sure. Before we let you go here on the subject of Enes Kanter, it's just another example going back to what we were just saying about having Barry on his podcast. If you reach out to somebody and you're just nice about it, you're not, seeming intrusive or you're forcing anything upon anybody. That's how, the same thing I reached out to George, just on some chill shit. I was just like, hey, man, if you would like to join our podcast, talk some hoops, I see you're super into all sports, not even just basketball. Yeah. And, you're very, consistent on posting and whatnot. And I enjoy seeing people that flood podcast content. So definitely shout out to all the podcasts that you got going on, you and your brother. And again, I got the Hot Media shirt, my brother BT. Got the journalism tip going on, man. He's doing a great job with that. As soon as things are get more back to normal a bit more, we'll see Brooks on the sideline reporting You know, like the good
I can't
old
wait.
days, man. Like the good old days.
I
And
can't wait, man. I miss the sidelines so much.
Miss seeing
I'm
you
ready
there,
to be back
bruh.
in the gym.
That's your natural habitat, man. It feels good seeing you
I
there
like
with your
that.
little notepad,
Facts.
taking notes and whatnot.
Facts.
But yeah, man, if you enjoy the content, subscribe. We're posting these episodes now back on the Apple Podcast. We had a little hiatus on there. And George Jarjour.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Man, on
Thank you
fire,
for joining,
man.
man. Yes, sir, man. I got this, baby. All right, guys. Thank you for joining. Definitely subscribe. Hit the like button. Drop a comment. Let's keep the conversation going. The latest in sports, pop culture, progressive politics, all that stuff, man. Don't miss any of the latest. NBA playoffs are back, and it's about to start in like 5 minutes. So we'll catch you guys on the next one. Bang.
Bang.
Mike Breen style.